Thank you, Donna, for that kind introduction. I want to say how much I appreciate you, Chairman Farias, and I'd like to acknowledge all of the members of our coordinating board who are here today. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your dedicated work on behalf of our Texas students and our colleges and universities. And thanks all of you for being here. I'm grateful that you've taken time to come together, come to Austin, participate in these conversations about the current state and the future of Texas higher education. I'm also grateful to our sponsors, including Google, the Meadows Foundation, Educate Texas, Greater Texas Foundation, the Texas Business Leadership Council, TLL Temple Foundation, and the Trellis Foundation. Because of y'all's generosity, we've been able to offer expanded programming this year. Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge the dozens of regents, trustees, chancellors, and presidents who've made a point of being here for these conversations. So many of you were integral to higher education's response to the pandemic, and all of you are going to play important roles in the exciting work ahead. So much has changed in these last 2 years. Like when I was up here for our last face-to-face leadership conference in 2019, none of us could have predicted that a global pandemic would change almost every aspect of our lives, how we work, how we engage, how we teach and learn. But I'm so grateful for how we've been able to come together to collaborate with higher education leaders, with employers, and with state policymakers to explore new ideas and develop a common vision of a talent-strong Texas that's well-equipped to excel in a global economy. Now, I'm eager to share my report with you on the state of Texas higher education, to reflect on challenges we're still facing, and talk about the work that's already underway to build an even better talent-strong Texas. We have a clear vision for what comes next, a vision for how Texas higher education will leverage the generational opportunities in front of us, a vision for how Texas will lead the nation. Now, Texas has set ambitious goals in the past, and as you'll hear, we're not backing away from any of them. Instead, we're raising the bar. It's hard to overstate the impact of what we've all faced these past 2 years. For our state, the cost of the pandemic in Texans' lives and livelihoods has been staggering. More than 72,000 Texans who tested positive for COVID-19 have died. More than 4 million individuals filed unemployment claims since March 2020, and that's out of a total workforce of about 14.5 million. At the height of the pandemic, Texas Workforce Commission was processing more unemployment claims each week than they typically handled in a month, and they handled more in a month than they'd handled in the previous year. For our colleges and universities, the COVID-19 pandemic was the largest disruption since the Second World War. We saw large declines in enrollments, especially students who were low income. About 70% of our students work, and a lot of those students lost their jobs, and their family situations drastically changed. Direct-to-college enrollments of our high school graduates dropped more than 6%. Dual credit enrollments dropped about 8%. Transfer from community colleges to our universities dropped about 8%. And those rapid enrollment declines especially took a toll on our smaller colleges that are more dependent on tuition and state formula funding. All our institutions experienced an unprecedented confluence of increased costs and the simultaneous collapse of multiple revenue streams from tuition, housing, food service, events, and athletics. Now, our students and institutions repeatedly have had to adapt to these and other challenges thanks to the leadership of many of you here in this room. So this year, we're recognizing 10 colleges and universities as our 2021 Star Award winners. And those institutions exemplified innovative and effective approaches to keep students, faculty, and staff safe, and also to support community public health responses. Their work is so inspiring. So, for example, just to build on what you saw in the video, so in regional hospitals, we're in crucial need of ventilators. Texas A&M Commerce used 3D printing technologies to convert BiPAP machines into ventilators for hospitalized patients. Lone Star College set up a virtual hospital to provide EMS training to firefighter cadets. And Houston Community College partnered with HEB to train grocery workers in their computer labs so they could keep critical supply chains running. Now, our Star Award honorees were chosen from a very impressive set of nominees. And again, I want to congratulate all our Star Award winners, and I want to say thank you. Thank you. So the pandemic's also accelerated changes that were underway in our economy a lot faster than anybody anticipated. And those disruptions increased the returns to higher education. So out of those 4 million individuals who filed for unemployment, more than half of them had high school diplomas or less, and only about 3% have bachelor's degrees. Now, as our economy is recovering quickly, the unemployment rates for individuals who only have high school diplomas are still more than double the unemployment rates for bachelor degree holders. And unemployment rates for individuals with less than a high school diploma are more than triple the unemployment rates for bachelor's degree holders. So you heard from my friend Brian Daniel, chairman of the Workforce Commission. Brian recently testified that the gaps between the skills and credentials most Texans have today and the skills that are required for most of the new jobs being created translates into a gap of about 1.4 million jobs. Education beyond high school is increasingly essential. Now today, enrollments at our colleges and universities are coming back, and I'm happy to report that our total fall 2021 enrollments are up over fall 2019 in almost every sector in higher education, as we've discussed, except for in our community colleges, where the enrollments are still down from 2019 by about 11%, about 85,000 students. Now, we still have a lot more work to do to understand what's driving that decline in community college enrollment. We think it may largely correspond to availability of entry-level jobs. Now, normally we think about labor market participation as a positive thing, and it is. But a lot of students may have taken lower-skilled entry-level jobs instead of enrolling in college or pursuing a skilled trade apprenticeship. And those short-term decisions can create a strategic vulnerability for those students and for the state. Because when students are trading those short-term gains for paths that lead to better job prospects, they're also trading off an opportunity for greater economic mobility. The impact of our students and the impact of the pandemic on our students, our colleges, our universities, again, has been profound. And our higher education leaders have repeatedly had to pivot to meet the needs of their students and the state. But I want to emphasize, it's thanks to your leadership that this disruption has also created a historic window of opportunity for Texas. You just heard from the panel and saw in the videos that last year, almost every college and university had to convert almost every course to online delivery. That happened in about 2 weeks. We had institutions that shifted their entire schedules. They broke 3-credit courses down into multiple 1-credit courses. They experimented with more intensive lab sections. And most importantly, they expanded their flexible program offerings. So the creative energy of faculty and departments and institutions across Texas was suddenly channeled in new directions. And that creativity, particularly the creativity of our faculty innovators, is going to be essential to drive unprecedented innovations in teaching and learning, realize this historic window of opportunity that's open for higher education, and expand access for generations of Texans to come. As I said, the COVID-19 pandemic's been the largest disruption to our colleges and universities since the Second World War. And if we reflect back, the defining moment for American higher education, the post-World War II era, was enactment of the GI Bill. This came up in our first panel as we kicked off the conference. Policymakers foresaw that the way forward from the pre-war economy to a new era of American prosperity was going to be through higher education. America invested in its talent on a grand scale by giving its veterans who'd fought for so much already a chance to build a more prosperous future. This changed the trajectory of American history. Campuses across America opened their doors to a new generation of students, resulting in an economic boom, a golden age of American capitalism. And the fruits of this prosperity were available to more people than ever before. Now, as we emerge from the global pandemic, we've arrived at another defining moment in history. In Texas, the window of opportunity is open for us to work together to advance an ambitious vision for higher education that will enrich the lives of generations to come. Just as the history of our nation changed trajectories after enactment of the GI Bill, we can rethink our assumptions about who our students are. We should think of our students well beyond those who are enrolled in our traditional degree programs, including thousands more high school students, part-time online students, and working adults will benefit from more flexible, short-term programs that align with current and emerging jobs. By widening the lens on who we serve, we'll ensure that all of Texas prospers. Now, in Texas, the hard work is already underway. Governor Abbott and the legislative leadership recognized early in the pandemic that raising the bar in higher education would be central to the state's economic recovery and future competitiveness. So thanks to them, Texas was one of only a few states that prioritized its discretionary federal stimulus funds for education for higher education. Those funds in the governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, known as GEAR. So far, the governor and legislative leadership's commitments of more than $250 million in GEAR funds for higher education enabled us to insulate our major financial aid programs from budget cuts during the initial financial shocks of the pandemic. You heard about how working together with the institutions, we were also able to deploy tens of millions of dollars in emergency financial aid to help keep more than 60,000 students on track and help them avoid dropping out. We awarded grants to dozens of public and private colleges and universities to accelerate their work in digital learning. That work by teams of faculty innovators is rapidly expanding our state's library of open educational resources that are available at no cost to students. We're also supporting exciting new collaborations among colleges and universities to share and enhance the digital content that they use to support their faculty. We've been working closely with the governor's Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative, with higher education institutions, and, as you heard about, with private philanthropy to modernize our state's educational and workforce data infrastructure. That's going to enable us to streamline and automate the collection and reporting of higher education data and workforce data so we can inform decisions and drive improvement. And we're providing seed funding to community colleges and universities to rapidly expand short-term credentials that align with state and regional workforce needs. That includes more than $26 million in GEAR funds to accelerate implementation of Senate Bill 1102, sponsored by Senator Creighton. So that bill will expand community college workforce offerings through the Texas Reskilling and Upskilling Through Education, or TRUE program. So yes, the legislature passed the bill. We were able to accelerate implementation of the bill. And then the 87th Texas legislature also made substantial investments for our community colleges, including an additional $15 million for the TRUE program and other investments in higher education. They invested $20 million for our regional, comprehensive regional universities, $50 million each for Texas Tech University and the University of Houston. And most notably, the authorization of about $3.3 billion in major capital projects at our public universities. And I'm thrilled to be able to share with you all this morning that later today, Governor Abbott will be announcing an additional investment in GEAR funding for Texas higher education to support the critical work that's underway across the state in areas including nursing, college and career advising, student success, and direct aid to students. I want to say thank you. Thank you to our lawmakers for their continued investments in higher education. In particular, I do want to call out and say thank you to the governor's senior staff, Brady Franks, Sarah Hicks, Louise Sines, Marion Wallace for the Lieutenant Governor's office, Daniel Warner from the Speaker's office. Thank you for your partnership, your leadership in making this work possible. And thank you to all our lawmakers for their continued investments in higher education and recognizing that window of opportunity that's open to us. So a few weeks ago, I was in Washington. I was at a meeting with counterparts from other states. We tend to be so heads down in the work in Texas that we may not know that this kind of deep commitment to strengthening higher education is not something you see in many other states. In Texas, I do think it reflects a commitment of the governor and a legislative leadership who understand the strategic importance of higher education for short-term economic recovery, yes, but also long-term competitiveness for Texas. So that means the stage is set for us to consider not only what Texas needs today from higher education, but also how Texas can continue to raise the bar for generations to come. So I recall a conversation I had last year when one of our policymakers asked me, what should higher education's major accomplishments be when we look back in 50 years? To me, we must address three key dilemmas to unleash the potential of Texas talent and ensure our competitiveness into the future. Number one, preparing for the workforce. During the pandemic, hundreds of thousands of Texans not only found themselves out of work, but needing additional skills to be able to get back into the workforce. Employers' needs are changing faster than anyone ever expected, from the hospitals and tech firms to the new Tesla plant that's out on 130. Texas employers are hiring, and they're vigorously searching for employers who have the right skills and credentials that provide value in these jobs. So the question is, how can we increase the number and diversity of Texans with the skills and credentials that enable individuals and employers to be competitive in a rapidly changing global economy? The second dilemma is student success. Far too many students stop out or drop out of our colleges and universities with some college credit but no credential, especially students who are low income and Black and Hispanic students. The U.S. Census estimates that nearly 4 million Texans have some college but no credential. If those former students have taken out debt, they can end up far worse than when they enrolled. So the question here is, how do we effectively and equitably improve our talent pipeline from initial enrollment to graduation? And the third dilemma we must address is research and development. Texas has a gross domestic product of $2 trillion. We are the 9th largest economy in the world, and so far, we're home to 50 of the Fortune 500 corporations, including companies working at the frontier of energy, technology, finance, and aerospace. Yet we still have only 3 universities that are counted among the world's top 200. Our economy is moving in directions that depend on knowledge and information faster than anyone anticipated. And like other great economies, Texas relies on the talent and discoveries that are produced by great higher education institutions as engines of medical advances, technology innovations, and economic development. We saw that last year. The innovations that powered at least 4 of the COVID vaccines were driven by discoveries made right here at UT Austin by Professor Jason McClellan and his team. So my final question is, how do we bolster our higher education, research and development infrastructure to transcend the limits of knowledge, discovery, accelerate the pace of innovation, especially to benefit local communities, regional economies, and the state? Now, of course, these dilemmas are formidable, and they're much larger than any single college, university, or system can solve on its own. So to continue our progress, it's important that we have the right goals. Now, when I became commissioner in 2019, it seems a lot longer ago than this, but it was just a couple of years ago, more and more employers were looking for workers with certificates, degrees, and other post-secondary credentials. It was clear our economy was changing. This was true in energy and healthcare and in IT. It was true with companies that were native to Texas, those moving here from California and other states, startup companies, legacy employers. So we'd already started a discussion with the governor's office about what it might take to update our state's 60 by 30 Texas higher education strategic plan to better reflect the state's needs to raise the bar. In February 2020, those discussions led to a formal charge from the governor to the Tri-Agency Workforce Initiative, and then COVID-19 hit and put all of those changes on the fast track. So over the last year and a half, we've been working with a steering committee of coordinating board members and members of the Texas Higher Education Foundation Board, with our tri-agency partners, and in consultation with employers, higher education leaders, and policymakers across the state to update our higher education goals. I'm so excited to share this work with you. In October, our board adopted the architecture for the updated plan, which we're calling Building a Talent Strong Texas. And next month, the board will adopt specific targets to measure progress. So I'd like to talk briefly about the major considerations this new plan will address and why this is so important now. Number one, our current plan focuses primarily on our young working population, age 25 to 34. It's called 60 by 30 because the goal is to have 60% of that young working population have some kind of post-secondary credential, degree or certificate by 2030. Now, we don't want to lose focus on that younger, more traditional age population, but we also understand our economy is changing faster than anyone anticipated, and that's why we're going to raise the bar to include an attainment goal for 35 to 64-year-olds who need to reskill or upskill to compete in today's economy. That goal underscores the importance of shifting our focus to think more broadly about who we serve, to acknowledge and embrace all Texans who want to pursue higher education even when they don't fit that traditional student profile. Number two, we need to push ourselves so we're not just aiming generically at educational attainment, but that we're leading the nation in producing credentials of value. And that includes a broader range of credentials than just traditional degrees and certificates. It also includes short-term credentials and workforce credentials that historically we just haven't been tracking. Texas will be the first state to tie our completion goals directly to the wage premiums associated with those post-secondary credentials. The first state. Number three is shifting our focus for student debt. Our current 60 by 30 Texas plan includes a goal that's framed in terms of students having debt at or below 60% of their first year wages. And frankly, that isn't very intuitive for students and their families. So we'll continue to include a goal on student debt, but we're going to focus on students either having no debt at all, because more than half our students currently graduate with no debt, or students having low manageable debt, giving the typical earnings for the kind of credential that they complete. Number four, it's striking. Our current plan is completely silent on that research and development mission for our institutions. Now, a lot of that work will focus on bolstering our research universities, accelerating the progress our emerging research universities are making, and that's important. But at the same time, we shouldn't ignore the increasingly important roles that regional universities and community colleges play through their incubators, their makerspaces, software development labs, and strategic partnerships. So for example, last year, the Army Futures Command and Austin Community College partnered to open what they call the Software Factory. And it provides a training pipeline for soldiers in areas like data science and artificial intelligence, while also connecting them with industry partners. When the Software Factory launched at the height of COVID, it was the first research collaboration of its kind in Texas between a community college and an outside partner, but it won't be the last. That's one reason that we're going to aim to expand private and federally sponsored research across all of our institutions. And lastly, throughout all our work, we have to be even more intentionally committed to to advancing equity. In raw numbers, Texas grew more than any other state over the past decade. And we're one of the youngest and most diverse states in the nation. You heard that more than 95% of that growth over the past decade was in communities of color. So that means if we're not advancing our goals equitably, we cannot meet those goals. At the coordinating board, our updated state goals are going to guide all of our priorities, our partnerships, our projects, and our policy work over the next year and beyond. For example, we're going to double down on our work with community and technical colleges, universities, health-related institutions, university systems, and in partnership with Texas employers to expand short-term credential offerings that are aligned with workforce needs. Short-term flexible credentials will be essential for expanding access and opportunity for more Texans and for realizing our goals. We're going to deepen our partnerships with TEA and the Workforce Commission and continue to work with institutions, employers, chambers of commerce, and other partners to strengthen college and career advising across the state, from middle school students to adult learners. We're going to deploy new online tools for students and families, institutional leaders, and the public to help inform their decisions. An important part of this work is going to include new interactive advising resources for students and families. We're also going to be releasing new public data dashboards for our new goals that present data by program, disaggregated by race, sex, and income. And we look forward to working closely with our policymakers as they work to align our state higher education finance systems with our state higher education goals, starting with the work that's already underway in the Community College Finance Commission. Our current higher education finance system was designed for another era, not for the dynamic and rapidly changing 21st century economy. So yes, the challenges we faced these past 2 years were formidable, and there's so much more work to be done. Your students, your institutions, your communities have real and urgent needs. At the same time, it's important to acknowledge the progress that you've already made. It's also important to acknowledge the historic window of opportunity that's open now because of the hard work and innovation of our Texas higher education leaders, faculty, and staff, and because of those strategic investments by our state leadership. I look forward to continuing our work with you and with your institutions so we can take full advantage of this moment, a moment like we haven't seen since the GI Bill changed higher education 3/4 of a century ago. The coordinating board, my team, and I are all committed to serving as a resource, a partner, and an advocate for you and your colleagues in Texas higher education. And over this next year, we're ready to accelerate our work together. We all know the disruptions and setbacks that we've experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're not backing off our ambitious goals. Instead, we're raising the bar. We're raising the bar to serve more Texans than we've ever served before, including Texas students who stopped out before they completed post-secondary credentials, and hundreds of thousands of adults who need to reskill or upskill. We're going to raise the bar to ensure all Texans can earn credentials of value in the Texas labor market with a clear line of sight to good jobs and fulfilling careers, all while leveraging the data we collect to guide our investments and drive improvements. We're raising the bar to bolster our capabilities to work at the frontiers of human knowledge and discovery and to accelerate the pace of innovation and commercialization. And most of all, we must raise the bar to make sure all Texans can participate in, benefit from, and contribute to the unique opportunities of our great state. And that's how we'll ensure Texas competitiveness for the long term, by working together, leading the nation, and doubling down on our commitment to building a talent-strong Texas. I so appreciate your contributions over the last day and a half. For those of you who traveled across the state to join us, please travel safely as you make your way back home. I look forward to continuing our conversations, our partnership, and I hope to see you all again in person very soon. Thank you, and God bless the great state of Texas.